Hello, hello, hello. I think I am
Hello.
live.
I think I
Uh, Hello. Is that better? Sorry, it's our first time talking to my beautiful wife. She can hear me. Okay, sweet. Thanks, babe. I appreciate that. I hope the video doesn't look too terrible. Let me see if I can pull it up to 4K here. And we are rolling. I think it looks better. Sweet. All right, and I'm gonna share with you is what was I talking about? Oh yeah, this video I've been thinking about for a while. I wanted to share with you a little bit of my thoughts of why we chose to go with Real Broker, and kind of want to walk you guys through how I ran into them, why I've been interested in them for a couple years before I actually ended up joining them, why we decided to finally join them about a year ago now. Yeah, actually, it's about to be a year ago in a couple weeks. And hopefully, this can help somebody out there, somebody who watches this video out there, kind of make that decision to see if this makes sense. It obviously doesn't make sense for everybody, in my opinion. I remember asking one broker, was who doesn't fit your culture, and I remember she said, oh, everybody fits our culture. And I just feel like if everybody fits your culture, you really don't have a culture to begin with. And so with Real Broker, that wasn't the brokerage, obviously. With Real Broker, not this isn't for everybody, obviously. So I really want to walk you guys through to show you guys who this might be for, who might be interested in this kind of brokerage. Let me see if I can share with you my screen without ending the stream. Let's see, share screen. Hopefully I don't. Okay, this is all a learning process. Let's see, let's see. Alrighty. Allow. Oh, I can't do that. But we're gonna go into open system. I'd have to reset this. I'd have to reset this, believe it or not. Let me think. Let me think. This site will be able to see the content on your screen. Chrome tab, window. Just the window. Yes. Google Chrome may not be able to record the content of your screen until it is quit. You can choose to quit Google Chrome now or do it on your own later. Beautiful. So I cannot share my screen until I quit it. Then I would have to end the stream. So we're gonna go raw dog it. We're gonna raw dog it here. All right. So actually, let me give me 5 minutes, and it's just you, my wife. So give me 5 minutes. Let me restart the stream. You gotta love it. All right, give me a second. Let me see if there's a way to not restart the stream. All right, open settings. Ain't that a interesting thing to learn? Let's see. So I have to quit. All right, I'll be right back, lads. All right, I think we are back. Sweet. All right, I think we are back. We got oh shit, we have a couple viewers here. Dope. All right, appreciate you guys' patience. My wife is watching. This is her first time going live, so babe, I would just hear your feedback and go from there. So back to kind of why I wanted to talk about with why we decided to start with Real Broker. I've got it actually kind of well organized here. So one of the things that kind of piqued our interest is way back when we were interested in going to EXP. We really liked the cloud brokerage idea model. It was just a little less expensive because there wasn't much of an overhead. We like getting our own systems, owning our own things. For example, um, don't like getting married to a CRM, right? Or a CRM that's married to a broker. Because on average, and don't quote me, but I believe on average, every agent switches brokerages every 2 to 3 years. And so, if that's the case, I cannot imagine as your business grows, you having to switch CRMs every 2 to 3 years. And so, that would be a huge pain. So, I wanted to find somewhere that I had the option to use the CRM that they offered, but I didn't have to use the CRM they offered in order to get all the value from the brokerage. And EXP had, you still had a monthly fee and you had the CRM there that if you wanted it, that you were paying for, but obviously you didn't have to use it, but you were still having to pay for it. So that kind of wasn't awesome. We looked into KW. We were actually at KW a few years back, and we learned a ton of great things. I mean, there's a reason why they were ranked, if not the best, one of the best in terms of training newer agents to become at least cap agents, right? So around 2.5 million, you'd fully cap at KW. So they would at least train you to get to 2.5 million. And I think there was definitely some value there. But we got to a point in our business that we had our own culture. We started our own teams. We didn't really need uh, that much hand holding anymore. And we wanted a place that could be fun to grow. Long story short, we went from KW to a small independent brokerage, had an awesome time, learned a ton of different things in that brokerage. But we got to a point where it was just our team, and we wanted to collaborate with other top producers. We wanted to see what the top guys in the market were doing, and be able to find a way to partner with them, especially if it didn't make sense for them to join our team because they had their own team, right? And so, we were thinking like, how can we do that? How can we kind of have a mix of both? How can we get the best perspective, or I guess the best benefits from a brokerage, but also still have most of the culture from our team, and maybe have some kind of synergies there. And so we ran into a real broker, believe it or not, in Utah Life. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Sisu who's watching it, but Sisu is a really good data tracking. And I said data tracking. It's always nowadays it sounds bad. It's not like you're the one putting in the data, and by data I mean conversations, appointment set, appointment met. That's what I mean by the data tracking. And so it's a really good software. And so they started doing these events, and so we went out there. Me and my brother, he's my business partner. We went out there to Utah Live to Sisu, and Sisu's owner uh, is married to the owner of Utah Life, the real estate team down there. And so they were at Real Broker at that time. And they're not very pushy in recruiting, not at all. Never felt like they were trying to pitch us to join Real. They just brought awareness to it. And they really liked how hands off it was. How what attracted me was honestly the branding. As you can tell, it's really well done. The marketing is really beautifully done. And so that attracted us. At the point, I think we were doing an 80-20 split, 12K cap, something like that. And that was it though. I mean, there was not much more value than just a low split, right? And so we tossed the idea. So I guess I don't really know how to go about it, but I guess we can kind of start looking at that. So we tossed the idea of going to a transaction brokerage or like 100% fee, and it doesn't really make sense once you start doing enough transactions, right? Um, because it's never really 100%. It's You're always paying something every single transaction. And if you have a ton of transactions at a low volume, like kind of like our team did or it does, then that gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. And so we knew that we couldn't really go the Realty One side of things, because I think their fees, when we looked, it was 600 plus per transaction. And I'm sure there were exceptions to that rule, but that ends up being, it becomes a pretty big chunk once you start doing 50 plus deals. And so we knew that didn't work out. And so we started looking at EXP and Real Broker. The biggest differences that we saw between EXP and Real Broker was EXP. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with it. it's very important who your sponsor is. So they call them, some people call them teams or organizations. And so you would get a trickle down benefit um, of who your sponsor is. So if your sponsor has access to a ton of different resources, you would have access to a ton of those resources if you chose them as your sponsor. And every organization had different resources. Once you joined EXP, you couldn't just switch sponsors, so you were kind of tied up to that. So that became interesting. I don't mind that. That's actually a very interesting business model. But then the incentive is to create an awesome organization to then recruit a ton of people to have a nice downline. While with Real, one of the rules is you can't do that. You have to, anything you offer, you have to offer to everybody. And I really like that. I think it brings in the right people, it brings in the right incentives. But I think the other thing was with rev share, I think it traps a lot of people. If you start looking at the math, because rev share is similar business model, in my opinion, to MLMs, multi-level marketing, where only maybe 5 or 10% make any money on rev share. Any money. You'll hear the stories of people doing 3 to 5,000 and 8,000 every single month in rev share. And I think what it does short term, I think it's a great goal long term. But what it does short term, I think it doesn't allow you to focus on the things you need to focus, which is finding buyers and sellers. As a real estate agent, that should be 100% of your focus, especially as you first start. And that's one thing that I was concerned with EXP. So that maybe not concerned with EXP specifically, but concerned in general. I didn't want to have to make a decision based off of value that I wasn't going to use to begin with. Like KW had the profit sharing model, but I never benefited from the profit sharing model, and I was there for a couple of years. And it's because I didn't never focused on it. A lot of people benefit from the profit share model. I think it's a great model at a time, but I never benefited from it. So why make a decision on which brokerage to go with based off of value that you're not going to use? And so that was one thing that me and Daniel kind of tossed over was what values are we actually going to use from the brokerage that can give us. And so it ended up becoming, you know, if we just focus on what we're good at or what we want to be good at, finding buyers and sellers, building our team, what benefit does that give you? And so I want to kind of walk you guys through this. This is the real joinreal.com website. Kind of want to walk you guys through this website. I mean, it's beautifully done, but I think it breaks down, what Real is all about. When we joined Real about a year ago, it was less than 20,000 agents, I believe. I could be completely wrong, but I believe it was less than 20,000 agents. I know in South Carolina where I'm at now, it went from 200-ish agents when I was there, and now it's over 600 agents. So it's growing like wildfire. It's really attracted a lot of top agents, a lot of top producers. I think what we're all kind of waiting for really is, I mean, let's look at uh, yeah, let's look at the numbers. I think that's really what everybody's interested in. At least that's what I was interested in. So with Real, it's an 85-15 split. It's that simple. There is no, hey, let me do you a favor, blah, blah, blah. There is just super simple 85-15. Another thing that I really was interested in with Real Broker was there's no monthly fees. It keeps our overhead down. We, as a team, we pay for our agents' overhead as much as we can. And one of those things that can be expensive is the monthly fees. We don't mind paying monthly fees all day if agents produce, but sometimes, we have bad months. And so we want to make sure we keep our overhead as low as possible. And kind of what I mentioned earlier was I didn't want to pay a monthly fee for services or values that we weren't using. A lot of times the monthly fee, um, the brokerage charges us is a tech fee, right? So you have like a CRM fee because they have the tech. You have a fee because of the some transaction coordination software, and we had all that already in house. So we didn't want to pay more money for something we're not going to use. It's just another thing for us to plug into because we're going to keep using our own thing. And so that's one thing I loved about Real is you had the option. They actually do for those who need a CRM. They have a great deal with Lofty, and it's like $40 I think a month instead of $100 a month, something like that. It's a great deal. If you don't have a CRM with Real, you have that option to go with it, but you don't need to pay for it. And that's one thing I loved about it is that freedom. Another thing, it's a very aggressive cap. different caps based on your business model. So most of the time, you're going to be a 12K cap. That's if you're either a team lead, if you have your own team, you're under you and your team lead, you're gonna have a 12K cap. If you're a solo agent, it's a 12K cap. So it's super simple. And $6,000 cap is if you're part of a team and it's a 50-50 split or however you have it with the team. Usually you become a half capper. So 6K cap instead of a 12K. And the 4K, I believe, is for huge teams. So if you have a huge team doing a ton of production, those are then eligible to the 4K cap. And so it's super simple, super easy to understand. And then you have the real stock. And this is actually not this specific benefit, but stocks in general was actually the reason why we joined Real. It was because, let me start with this. This specific benefit is you can buy a stock. Essentially, you can buy using 5% of your commission. Before you can use up to 5% of your commission that you earn to buy stock, and they give you 10% on top of that, right? So as I invest 5% of your commission, 10% after capping a real stock, and Real will reward you with a 10% bonus or a 15% bonus after capping. So I actually know a lot of agents that have doubled down on this, and they do this and they have a ton of money on stock. This is one of those things that essentially you get that stock immediately. And we'll talk about what I like to call the golden handcuffs here a little later. And I'm way over time, so I'll try to wrap this up. Legacy. Let me back up because this isn't talking about it. Yeah, no, let me back up before we get into legacy and the 5-tier rev cap. Is there's certain activities that you do. If you just focus on being really good at buying and selling, you can potentially earn more stock than what you give Real. That's why we joined Real. That one reason is why we joined Real. You telling me all I have to do is do my job at a very high level. I don't have to do anything extra to get stock in return, to get a bonus in return, and it can be more valuable than what I'm giving the company. I mean, that to me that was a no-brainer. I haven't been able to find anything else like it. Any other brokerage that offers this. There's a couple other things I actually love about the brokerage. But that was the reason why I joined Real. And one of the reasons why I'll stay with Real for maybe forever. Hopefully their business continues to grow and continues to innovate as they are now. But the other reason was, I forgot where I was going with it. But the other reason is, with this cloud brokerage, one thing I was concerned about was just being my own culture and not having really any culture outside of my team. And I think that's a missed opportunity. I love feeding off people's energy, especially people that are working and producing at a higher level than I am. And you want to be around those people that you want to be like someday. And well, Real GV. So with EXP, they have a partnership with Regis. I can't pronounce that, but you get what I'm saying. And so you're able to go with them and collaborate with people that go to Regis. But other than that, I didn't really hear of any office space or any culture outside of that. And I'm sure that exists, but I didn't hear about that doing my research locally. With Real Broker, there's these offices called you got Real Local and you got Real GVL here in Greenville, where it kind of gives you that nice, like if you want that office feel in a cloud brokerage, it's a separate membership, but you have to be within Real. And so you can get that collaboration with other agents. If you're a solo agent and you just kind of want to get plugged into that office and be around those top agents, you can get that in Real. But if you kind of just want to do your own thing, you don't have to pay for it. And it's going back to the freedom thing. It's kind of like you have the freedom to not have to pay and not have a monthly membership for the CRM that they chose for you, but you also have the freedom to choose the CRM that they're choosing for you, and you can have a good discount because of it. So same thing with this is you don't have to pay for that office space. It's not part of your cap. It's not part of what you're giving Real, but that option is there if you want to do that. And that's one of the things I loved about, and I love about being in Real is, so we do a mastermind now. It's one of the things I loved about KW when I was back with them. Their masterminds were fantastic. It was one of the biggest values, in my opinion, that I got from KW. And when I left KW, that's one of the biggest things that I miss about them was not having access to those masterminds. And so when I joined Real, they didn't have a mastermind going, but so I was able to start one up, and Now we have a mastermind every single month where we go to one of these real offices, usually real GVL, and we're able to collaborate with top producers that do a ton of business from agents that are just starting into the business, and we're able to feed off each other's different perspectives and different experiences to become better agents ourselves. And I guess that in a nutshell really is why I joined Real and why I'm going to stay with Real. Now we'll talk about legacy because I like this rev share. One of the things I think or I thought about the KW profit sharing model that I didn't love was it was very freaking confusing. The profit sharing model, it's not very clean. You don't really know exactly what to expect. You brought somebody into to KW, they did a deal, so you're thinking you're going to get a piece of that, but it's a profit sharing, so it really just depends on the equation. Did is that brokerage profitable for that month? And based off, the percentage of how much value that agent that you recruited into KW, how much did they help with the profitability? I mean, it's just not clean. And so, and with EXP, it was a little confusing too. I mean, they have a pretty set forward, but it's just not as simple as this, right? It's 5 tiers. It's the first your first tier you get 4K if they cap, and if it's a half cap you get 2K if they cap. Very simple every single year. 4% after that, 3%, 2%, 1%. I mean it's that simple. And so that's what I like too. And actually I've been surprised. And with the Real app, the Reason app is actually really clean. It's really well done. I used it more than I ever used any other software. And I say used hard. Let's say I don't use it often. It's not part of my business, but I do use it to see how much rep share I have. And it's been pretty awesome, dude. I haven't really recruited. It's been my boys on our team. And I mean, it's been about $1,000 this year, not focusing on getting a downline, not focusing on any of that stuff. It's been like an extra $1,000, $2,000, which is if you're a team lead looking to join a Real with maybe 3 agents that produce that you're bringing in with you. That's probably something around there is what to expect. Maybe anywhere from 1,000 to 6,000, depending on how much they produce, which is awesome, dude. I mean, that's money that what we end up doing is money that we end up just putting back into the team when we do our quarterly events and annual retreat and client events and all that stuff. So it's just more money we're able to invest back into the business. But yeah, I mean that in a 20-minute long ass video to say is it's that was kind of our way of processing how what brokerage made the most sense for us. Um, in summary, I'm talking too much. In summary, it was which brokerage gave us the most amount of value if we just focused on what helping buyers and sellers and not on anything else. And for us, Real was that brokerage that gave us the most amount of value. All right, guys. I'll probably end it there with that. Now we can kind of open it up to some questions, Q&A. If anybody has some questions, I'd love to kind of dive deep into it. I know we got 2 viewers. I don't know if it's me and my wife because I've got it on the other one, or if there's somebody I don't know. If anything, don't worry. I've got ChatGPT here that can help me come up with some questions, and I'll go over it. So whoever watches this later will get some value out of it. But I'll open it. I'll open it, and if you have any questions, please ask in the chat. Pull it up. All righty. Hey, appreciate that. What factor was the biggest influence for your long-term goals? What factor was the biggest influence for your long-term goals? Thanks for the question. I think the factors that we looked into was a pretty straightforward answer is the stock. So one thing to keep in mind with the stock is think about like golden handcuffs. If you earn the stock based off activity, like you didn't purchase the discounted stock, but you earned it based off activity, it's a 3-year what's the word called? Vending of I forget what it's called. Essentially, you don't get vesting. Thank you. It's a 3-year vesting, and so we knew that going into it. So what we did is just we're focusing on becoming an elite agent. And so the way it works, let me see if I can find out the way essentially that stock works, because I thought for me that was let me see, I thought that was the best, um, the value that it had to. I'm gonna have to find where the stock is at, because the way it works is for every person that you bring in. So for every person that you bring in into your downline and they do one transaction with you, you get some stock, and it changes depending on the size of the brokerage at that time. So it really does depend. But you get some stock. For me, it was 75. Usually, it's 150. I might be butchering it, and by the time you guys watch this, it might be different. And then the other thing was, if you cap, you will get some stock on that. Usually, it's not a terrible amount. I think it's like 150 stock, which ends up being about $1,000 of worth of stock once you cap. So you get about $100 worth of stock, or a few $100 worth of stock when somebody joins underneath you and does a transaction. You get some stock when you cap, but you get the most amount of stock. So you get $16,000 worth of stock once you become an elite producer. So um, that's once you've capped. So you pay the 12K and you pay another $6,000 in transaction fees. So the 8515 is once you cap. And this is where it gets a little confusing. After you cap, you then have a transaction fee of 275, if I'm not mistaken. Once that 275, so usually 20 or 30 deals after the time you cap, you become an elite agent. So once you become an elite agent, you get $16,000 back in stock. However, that you're already in $18,000 that you've given Real that year. So you still haven't recouped your cost. What makes sense is if you give back to the community, so you become an elite agent and you give back to the community, either doing once a month, you do some kind of course that you put in the Real Academy, or you're involved locally doing some kind of giving back and locally, then you get an additional $8,000 worth of stock. So now we're talking about $24,000 worth of stock every single year, and you just have to wait for that 3-year vesting period to then have access to that stock. And so I thought that was very interesting, and that's essentially our long term goals, is focused on growing the team little by little, but also focus on making sure that we become elite agent status every year so that we grow over time. I hope that answered your question. That was a very long way to answer your question. Thanks for the question, babe. Um, I've got some questions here. Let's see. What are the fees, caps, and rev share like? So we kind of walked through the rev share and the caps. There's a 12K cap, 85-15 split. But here are some of the fees, and this is kind of I'm not gonna lie, it's a little annoying, but it is what it is. I thought this one was actually quite impressive. So usually, there's actually a $750 annual fee, but the way they break it down is your first 3 transactions of every year you have an 85-15 split plus an additional $250 transaction fee. And so you pay that only if you close those 3 deals. After you close those 3 deals, you don't have to pay that transaction fee again. And then you have a $35 E&O fee that you have to pay every single transaction. So it's an 85-15, then it's a $35 E&O fee on top of that afterwards. Then after the 12K cap, so you're just paying that 85-15 plus a $35 E&O. After that, it becomes a 275 transaction fee, I believe. I believe that's what it is. Once you become an elite agent, that goes from 275 and it halves to 125, I believe. So it's a little less than half, and then that's just for the life of the year, and then it restarts the year after. So that's how the fees goes. They change every once in a while, not too often, and I might be off by a few dollars here and there. I might be missing one, but I believe that's all the fees that we have to pay for Real. All right. What tools and community do agents get access to? So we have Real Zen. It's a really cool app. Oh, let me see. How beginner friendly is Real? Let me go with that question instead of the ChatGPT question. Uh, how beginner friendly is Real? I think the answer is it depends, man. It really depends on who you are as a beginner, and I mean, let's get deep into that question real quick. If you're going to be joining as a solo agent, the question then becomes the local area that you're at. How strong is the real community there? Are you going to get plugged into an office like real local or real GVL? If so, do you have somebody, is your sponsor local, where you can call them 3 or 4 times a day to help you walk you through the process? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Because if you're going solo agent and you have no prior experience in real estate, you definitely want to have that go-to person, um, that can help you grow your business, that can help you answer questions. Because sometimes in business, in real estate, especially as a newbie, you need to find out the answers to your questions as quick as possible. And so you definitely just want that go-to person. So do you have that? If the answer is yes, then you're good. The other thing is if you're part of a team. If you're part of a team, yeah, real is as friendly as it gets. I mean, the team is gonna essentially do should. I mean, that's kind of what you're, partnering for them for is for them to help build your business as fast as humanly possible, and that includes culture, structure, training, accountability, all that stuff. So if you're part of a team joining Real, yeah, you're good to go. But if you're going solo agent, the question is, do you know yourself? Are you gonna get plugged into the real community? If so, yes. If not, if you're just gonna be at home, I mean, nobody's gonna know to how to even help you. Hopefully, that's a good answer for you. Thanks for the question. Let's see. Let's do a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. Oh, I was mentioning the what tools and community do agents get access to? And so I mentioned Real Local, Real GVL will have access to that. If you decide to join, obviously you'll have they do a ton of training, a ton of get-togethers. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat how much activity, how much camaraderie that they have together. I think they have like 20 or 30 people here at the Real office here in Greenville. And then what tools? So we get access to Reels In. It's a really cool app. They're constantly innovating that app. I mean, we have down to a credit card in there, a wallet. They help us with our taxes, separate, how much money we should separate for our taxes. They're not an accountant by any means, but you can do that automatically through their app. It helps you with their transactions, helps you how you get paid quickly. And it's actually a really clean app. It's really cool. It's not a CRM. And if you don't have a CRM, go get one. Um, but it is a really cool app. Now they give you access to a CRM, Lofty. Everybody's heard of Lofty because every brokerage and their mom has partnered with Lofty at some point or another. But they have access to Lofty, and they have it at a really good discount. I think it's 40 or 50 bucks per person per month. So it's a really good discount if that's something you guys are interested in. So we get that. The other thing that we get is Work Vivo. I don't really use Work Vivo like that, but they've just recently migrated their communities page to Work Vivo. So there's masterminds, there's courses, there is groups going on in Work Vivo constantly. It's a really cool way to connect with people outside of your area. A really cool way to connect with and be part of virtual masterminds. So if you're interested in YouTube masterminds, they have that. That's something I was interested in. I just never joined it. I probably should. And so those are really the three big, let's say, tools. They also have cool marketing tools, really cool. But I would just connect to Canva, to be honest. But they have really cool marketing tools, and actually they have templates that you can click into to put it into Canva. Then you can mess with it there. So I mean, they really thought about a lot of things. Very detail oriented business. And I think that might be a good place to call it. Thanks so much for watching me this far. This is something we're gonna start doing every Friday at 3 o'clock. We will get a lot better than we did today. I appreciate your patience. Thanks, babe, for the feedback. And well, I guess we'll see you again Friday at 3 o'clock.